Hi, everyone, and thanks for listening in on our talk. I'm Brittany Kenynon-Flatt, and I'm an NSF postdoctoral fellow in biology, working in the Hominoid Evolution Research Lab with Dr. Chris Walker here at NC State University. Today, we'll be discussing some of our research centered on the main question, does climate affect the shape of our bones? And we address this question by studying the skeletons of macaque monkeys. There are currently 23 species of recognized macaque monkey, and aside from humans, they are the most geographically widespread primate. The range of the species we studied is shown by the icons here, and their range makes them a good model for testing the effect of climate on the primate skeleton, and primate here also includes humans. We focused on 8 species for our study and specifically chose monkeys that represented certain climates. Barbary macaques live in Gibraltar and Morocco in a temperate climate, usually on grasslands. Stump-tailed macaques live in southern Asia in a subtropical climate, usually in a forested environment. Crab-eating macaques live in Thailand in a tropical climate, sometimes close to beaches. Japanese macaques live in Japan, which is what they are named for, in a subtropical and a subalpine climate, where they are often living in the snowy mountains and generally warming up in the natural hot springs. Pig-tailed macaques live in Malaysia in a tropical climate, usually in a forested environment. Rhesus macaques are shown here in Puerto Rico, though they have a wide geographic range and are found across India and China, and they tend to live in a variety of climates, including tropical, arid, and temperate. Choke macaques live in Sri Lanka in a subtropical climate in forests and grasslands. And finally, black-crested macaques live in Sulawesi in a tropical climate, usually in a forested environment. To collect data, we visited 11 different museums to 3D scan bones, which was done with an HDI 120 laser scanner, as you can see here. And the scanning of the bones led to the creation of 3D models, as you can see here. To measure the shape of the bones tested, landmarks, or biologically meaningful points on a bone, like a specific muscle attachment point, were used here to create XYZ coordinates in morphospace, which essentially just measures the bone shape. And here you can see examples of some of the landmark points that we applied to each of the bones, which were then used to capture overall bone shape for an individual. We ran 2 statistical tests, a Mantel test, which tests for the correlation between 2 data sets, which in this case was bones and climate data, which found that the radius, the pelvis, and the femur all significantly correlate with climate. Secondly, we ran a Procrustes rotation, which is used to visualize the data, looking at whether 2 data sets track each other. Here, it is suggested that most species do track each other, where you can see that the rhesus macaque bones, for example, are relatively close in morphospace to their climate. And similarly, the Barbary macaque bone shape tends to track their climate as well. All of this means that some bones, like the lower arm, the pelvis, and the upper leg, are impacted by climate, and therefore climate does drive shape. Results also showed us that it was more likely that precipitation rather than temperature drives skeleton shape. And we hypothesize that more rain means that more vegetation and more food are available, which leads to a healthier skeleton. So why does all of this matter? Humans live all over the world, but unlike macaques, they are culturally adapted. We wear clothes when we're cold, more clothes when we're cold, and less clothes when we're hot. And we have footwear like for walking in cities versus footwear for walking in mountains versus footwear for walking in forests. But with a changing climate, we need to know how different climates affect us biologically. So we can use the macaque models to help us understand the impact of climate on the shape of the human skeletons in an effort to continue to study how climate change may affect us in the future. And with that, we want to thank the curators who allowed us to conduct this research, to all of the organizations who funded our work, and please feel free to reach out to us via Twitter or email us with any of your questions. Thanks so much for listening.